Madam Clerk, please, the roll call.
Bonanno. Fierstein.
Present.
Garrettson is excused. Hyatt. Joyner is excused. Vice President Rios.
Present.
Council President Epps.
Present.
We do have quorum.
Thank you. Could you read the roll call of the directors, please?
Lieutenant Cove, OIC. Fire Chief Carey. Director Hardy. Director Rustamano. Township Attorney Montilus.
Excuse.
DA Smith. CFO Jones.
Thank you. Give me a minute, because I know the audience can't see me. I'm just going to shift my seat. Thank you. Councilman Feinstein, will you please give a budget presentation? Your budget presentation.
Can everybody see the screen? Is it visible? Okay. So we're going to talk about the budget tonight. The Finance Committee has spent a lot of hours with each other, with the different departments that were present. I'll just ask my council colleagues if they want to come down. They're welcome to sit in the audience if they want to see the presentation. They could follow along in the.
You can't go too far.
Oh, too far. Sorry. Or if they want to follow along in their packets. Okay. So I wanted to get a little more in depth as to what's happening with this budget and what the Finance Committee has found so far. Before we start, I just wanted to go over, because this is often, this question comes up fairly frequently in our council meetings, and I just wanted to go over what the roles are between the council and the mayor and the administration. So the council, we legislate, we investigate, and we appropriate. Those are the three functions of each council member. And the mayor oversees the day-to-day operations, contract negotiations, appointments of professionals, and there's a couple of examples listed in each. So for example, the council was able to pass a resolution when people were complaining about Airbnbs and things like that, so they brought that to our attention. The resolution got passed by the council. We instituted something new for the township, hopefully to the benefit of the residents. And then it became up to the administration to code enforce whatever was happening. And that's just a typical example, things like street cleaning, things like township revenue, code enforcement, hiring employees. Those are all the administration's handling, and everything else, well, like I mentioned before, the legislative part, creating new ordinances and resolutions, the investigative part, doing our investigation, finding out what the issues are and really coming up with creative solutions. And the appropriation part, going over the money, is what the council does. So I just wanted to go over this because it's often people come and complain about street cleaning to the council, and those things are really, they could be brought to our attention, but really for the directors to handle through the oversight of BA Smith. Okay, let's go over the actual budget. We're looking at the budget numbers here. You can see what's highlighted down below. We have the prior year. We have the surplus that was from last year carried over to this year. And on the top right-hand corner, you see what the local tax rate is now, given the new budget that the mayor introduced. And on the very right-hand side, you see the percentage change. That's the 13.72% that everyone's talking about, almost 14% tax increase. This is where the numbers all begin, and behind this document are many, many, many pages, and we'll cover a couple of them on how we get to these numbers and what this is all about. In reviewing these numbers with the auditor, a couple of items were highlighted, and I just wanted to bring these to your attention here. These are the notes of the auditor, and I made some highlights and comments for you, which we'll get to. He pointed out that the municipal tax increase is at 13.7%. There's a reduction in the use of surplus. We did not generate surplus in 2024 to kind of regenerate the surplus that we used in the past. And we are aggressively anticipating miscellaneous revenues, meaning we're not going to generate surplus at the rate we're going with this, even with this tax increase. When you look at the appropriations, these are the spendings. These are the different things that the municipality has spent money on. And you could see here what each thing is and really where the key highlighted items are, and I'll cover some of this a little more in detail. Just some of the things that stand out, you could see some of the big numbers, right? You see there's $2.1 million, the 34.51%, the third from the top. That's the group health insurance that was increased. You see a little further down below, garbage, $375,000, that's a 13% increase. And we see the sewer system is up 66%. You see the joint trunk sewer down below, $436,000 increase from last year. And you see just a couple of items here, and the ones that are highlighted in red are just ones that stuck out to me, including economic development, things that went up that we have to really question what this is about. On the right-hand side, you'll see that correlates to each of the departments, fire and police. You see what the salaries were last year, the overtime, and the overall increase. So fire increased by 22%, the police increased by almost 15%. Now, some of that is warranted, and we have to understand what that means. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And what OIC Cove was able to send over, just so we understand where your dollars are going and what that means to us, the police department had issued in 2024 10,037 summons. In 2025, it's about 6,000 year to date. So what that means is we're pretty much on track. The police departments are working hard. They've been issuing summons, and we're basically where we are last year. By the time we finish the year, it'll be very close to what it was last year. The number of police department employees, you see in 2019 there were 37, and it doubled in 2020, and it's pretty much stayed the same for the past couple of years with a little fluctuation in the civilian employee count. Total calls for service in 2024 was almost 40,000, so the police department had gotten 40,000 calls in 1 year, and year to date for 2025, about 22,703. It averages to about 3,000 calls a month. So the reason I'm showing this here is, as much as we say the police department and the fire went up in percentages, a large part of that you can see where the work is, right? There's almost 40,000 calls that were done last year. We're pretty much on pace to do that again. This is not an area that I certainly at the finance department or many of my colleagues feel we want to touch in terms of making cuts. I just want you to see the amount of responses that they've done over the course of the year so we can just appreciate also what these departments are doing. So the mayor presented a 14% increase. That it doesn't happen overnight that you just get the 14%. The questions we have to ask ourselves, and part of the due diligence that the finance committee goes through, is how do we get to this point, and how are we going to get out of this going forward? This is really the crux of the presentation. What's changed in our quality of life from last year to this year? So if we're paying all this much more, what are we getting for it? And what are we getting for the increase, and how will this be different in the years to follow? So the previous finance chair, my colleague VP Rios, had sent out an email in June of last year when we finished the budget, and he mentioned a few of these items. He said there was overtime in police, the health insurance increase, the pensions, the joint sewer meeting, the library. These are all things that have increased last year and were the reason for the 6% increase a year ago. And as you can see from where we are today, that's still the same, almost the same issues that we're having right now. The reason I bring this up is we sort of knew that this was coming, right? If this is the reason for 6% last year, you can kind of say, hey, look, payroll's going up, people's minimum wage is going up. We want to make sure that we account for this, and we want to make sure that we can offset it in the coming year. The reason I bring this up is that it was clear from the email last year from the finance chair that these things were noted, and the question is, what have we done for it to account for it this time? Some of the last part of his email mentioned some of the other things that we could do to offset it. Shared services for dispatch, which was tried. There was negotiations with the labor unions, reverse tax appeal, mercantile registry. That's what we've been talking about for a while, getting a business registration in town so we know what all the businesses are. Landlord registry, foreclosures, the parking meters. So these were ideas that were presented last year that should have offset the taxes to some degree. Not fully, obviously, that would be monumental, but we're trying to figure out, well, what happened here, right? How did we get from 6% to 14%? And with some of these items that were mentioned, that we have to change some of the labor union contracts, when I looked at that, I realized, who's the best person who can handle something like that? A labor union negotiator, right? Which we're very lucky that our mayor has done that in the past. So these things that were identified as being an issue, the best person who could have handled it was in the seat and could have made a difference in those items. Now, I'm not saying every single one, but we had someone here who was a labor negotiator. This is important. There are parts of our union contracts that do have to be changed, that have to be addressed. There are some very rich benefits in Hillside that are given through retirement, which is just monumental, and us, the taxpayers, are paying for that after people retire from the township. So we need to rethink how we do this. Part of my discussion here today is not just why we're in this predicament, but how are we going to fix this going forward? One of the key ways, and I brought this up before to the administration, now I would bring it up again, is making sure that we deal with some of the new hires that are coming in and their contracts. Now, these contracts come up every 3-4 years in circulation, roughly. Let's just call it every 4 years. So we've had, under this administration, at least 2 chances to kind of fix some of these things. So we see that these items are still a very big item, a very hot topic, and unfortunately, very cumbersome when we talk about our overall tax increase. Just to sum up, for those of you that weren't there, I wanted to address some of the mayor's points that she made in her presentation, because it is relevant to what we're dealing with today, and I just wanted to show you a little bit of where I see things a little bit differently than how they were presented, and how I think we're going to hopefully make a difference going forward. So part of the comment that was made was all the increases are statutory and beyond our control. Another comment was made that this was after years of fiscal irresponsibility by only raising taxes 1%. I'm not arguing those points. What I would like to say is we knew about this, right? This is not something that we didn't know. If it's going back 4 or 8 years, this is something that definitely could have been addressed over time. Now, some of the good things the mayor mentioned, which I would agree with, is development coming to town, which hopefully we'll see more of. And she mentioned new power washers that were paid by UEZ funds. Again, these are smaller items, and you're looking at a budget increase of a few $1 million. The mayor mentioned, and rightly so, that there's different parts that go into your taxes, right? A third is the township, a third is the Board of Ed, a third is the county, and you've got the library in there also. And what was looked at when you're looking at all this is we're talking about a 14% increase just from the township. Now keep in mind, the Board of Ed is going up 2%. We have the county going up. There are other factors that are going into our taxes. This 14% increase that the mayor is introducing is not just 14%. It's on top of those other items. This average increase, just the 14% from the township, will be about almost a $600 increase to the average taxpayer. What that means is retirees who are on fixed income, their taxes are going to go up almost $600 a year, just from the township, not including the library, not including the county or any other item. The budget process, which the mayor mentioned, is that the mayor introduces the budget and the council can make it 0% and has 30 days to amend it. I had taken issue with this when it was said, and I want to just reiterate this now. The mayor introduces the budget, that's true. For the council to make it 0 is a near impossibility and a little bit misleading in my opinion. There is no way when it was introduced this late in the year to kind of get to the 0. The money's already been spent. I'll cover this a little bit later. We mentioned increases in insurance. Again, I'm just reconfirming that some of the points that the mayor had mentioned at her meeting are highlighted here just to show you that not up for election this year. These are just the facts. We're just showing you what's been presented and what the Finance Committee has found. One of the things which no one has really covered, and it's an exercise that we would have to revisit. I mentioned this, or we discussed this with the auditor on our last call. We're doing this big library project, and we figured out the mathematics with the CFO last time, what that dollar increase would mean to the average taxpayer on a strict dollar basis. Meaning, when we looked at the numbers, it was going to cost, I believe it was $16 per resident annually. What we didn't look at, and what I still don't know and has to be figured out, is when you build a new library, what's the formula that goes into calculating what that tax increase is for that portion? So I don't have that formula yet. It's been difficult to get. Hopefully we'll get a handle on that. But just building a new library is not just the cost that goes into it, but the ongoing cost that we're going to incur because of that. I just want to make a point of that because it hasn't really been talked about before. Okay. Let's talk about some of the things that we could do and we have done to try to offset some of these taxes. So the mayor had brought up reverse tax appeals. Now, this was brought up a year ago, and we had tried, although we were given this really at the last minute, right before the council meeting or days before the council meeting. The thought process was there's something called reverse tax appeals, which would be able, the township and through a tax attorney can go after different properties and say you need to pay your fair share, you're underpaying, you're overpaying, and they can figure that out. This was brought up as a revenue generator. Keep in mind, this is a one-time revenue generation thing. It happens once. You usually get assessed. You can appeal it, you cannot, you can pay it, but it's a one-time revenue occurrence to the township. So this was first introduced just days before the April deadline last year. As you can see from some of the emails, and pay attention to the dates here, this was sent by Steve Augustine Monday, March 25th of 2024, so the meeting, this had to be passed by April 1st, so about 5 days before, where the comments were made, and I'm just going to skip to the highlighted section. We don't have a specific list of properties that would be impacted. There are currently no supporting documents of note. This resolution is typically standard, and many towns adopt this during their reorg meeting in the event they decide to pursue reverse tax appeals. Keep in mind, we're given this 5 days before with no documentation, with no backup, no anything, and we're told, hey, pass this because everyone does it. So, in doing a little bit of due diligence that we were trying to figure out, questions were raised 2 days later. We made some calls to other townships to figure out what they do. I'd like to see a resolution restricting it to businesses only. When this was first introduced to us, it had just said any property. It did not delineate between businesses and residents. What that means is, had we passed this quickly last year, every resident could, in theory, be reassessed and re-looked at to see if they're paying enough taxes and maybe get hit with some increased taxes. I'm not saying it's not fair or not. The point was, with limited time and no information, this seemed like a very detrimental thing to the residents that we just weren't prepared to pass. So last year, it did not go through. And I just want to explain why. And we were talking about amending the language and figuring this out, but that was a year where revenue was missed. So my question to you, and I'm saying this a little rhetorically, what would you do? What would you do when you're given a resolution days, minutes before, trying to get no information and told, hey, you got to pass this, everyone else does it? Very dangerous, very dangerous. And that's why typically, when things don't happen, it's because not enough information is given, and it becomes very burdensome on the council people to try to figure out and backtrack and see what's going on. Okay. One point that was made, this reverse tax appeal concept didn't seem like a bad concept. If there are businesses here that are getting away with not paying, or I shouldn't say gotten away, they haven't paid for a while, whatever increase there was, it would be fair that they pay the increase. We're not arguing that. And because of that, what I had tried to do after the last time that this didn't get passed, was to clarify and say, hey, let's get ahead of this next year so we don't miss the deadline, so we don't have a problem, and make sure we don't lose out on that revenue because it will help the taxpayers. So, in trying to get that a little bit more clear, see the email dated April 22 of this year. Just giving you a timeline of what had happened last year and how we got to where we were. There were follow-up emails sent after this whole thing came out. Hey, let's get ahead of this on March 25th, 24. Let's get ahead of this even though it didn't happen. The 27th, we said we need to get the resolution by the 21st. On the 28th, nothing happened, but for months and months after, we said, let's not lose momentum. Let's pass this early if we can. We were told we couldn't until January, but let's not wait till April 1st of the following year to get this thing passed. Multiple reminders and emails were sent. They were all available for the public if they're interested. But this has been going on since March 25th of 2024. So the point was that there were council people here looking out for our best interest, trying to make sure that the businesses paid their fair share, and making sure we wouldn't get left behind. The attorney that eventually sat with us at this past meeting said within minutes before we had to present that we had to pass it, we had 3 days left. Again, very little information given, very similar to the prior year. And the point was, we had asked him, and I believe it was Councilwoman High, had asked him, when did you present this to other townships? You're an attorney that does this in other places. And he said, at least 2 weeks ago. So we looked at each other, why are we getting this last minute again? Why is this happening? We knew about this, we talked about this, we reminded everybody. Some things we can't fix as to why that happened. But if you look here, the mayor posted on Facebook, and the reason I wanted to make a point of this is she mentioned, by commencing the reverse tax appeal, the township stood to recoup conservatively $1 million in tax revenue, possibly up to several $1 million. This was on Facebook, April 21st, right before this resolution had to be passed, when we had to kick it down because we didn't have enough information, the same as last time. So the question that we asked ourselves was, what happened to all these millions of dollars? Why do we have a 14% tax increase? The resolution got passed. Why are we sitting here with a 14% tax increase when, in theory, millions of dollars were available? This is really troubling. The real answer is, it's not that simple, and you can't just recoup millions of dollars. The attorney gets a third. So if you had $1 million, the attorney's getting $300,000 of that. So now we're down to $600,000. What if the businesses appeal these tax appeals? A business is entitled, as are residents, when you get assessed, you can go to court and you can say, I feel that this is unfair and here's why. No business is going to pay a huge increase just because we assess them. There's going to be a lot of time that it takes to kind of get that resolved. Furthermore, only one attorney was ever presented to us as the attorney we should use. I'm not saying it was good attorney, bad attorney, I don't know. There were a couple mentioned. We were presented with an attorney that we tried to figure out the other work they've done. They seemed okay. But I'm just going to show you that, again, what you're seeing on Facebook and what you're seeing on social media is that we could have had millions of dollars. It's not true. It doesn't exist. Where is it? It was passed. Why haven't we done it yet? The answer is this stuff takes time. But the narrative that we're getting is the council messed this up and now we have no money. So when you look at a 14% tax increase that the mayor introduced, some of this falls on a little bit of deaf ears when we say, look, we've been trying for forever to get this done, and now it can't happen. I won't spend too much time on this because I want to be careful of our time. Similar thing happened with the health insurance. The health insurance we knew was getting expensive, and we wanted to make sure that we had alternative options. We were presented with a broker that basically came in front of us and said, we're switching plans, and we're going to save a lot of money. There was no more detail. If you see from Dr. Garrett's email, she requested, did the unions know about this? Did anyone know? And the answer given, which is not an incorrect answer, was that the unions don't have to be consulted because it wasn't equal to or benefit, or equal to or better than planned. The point I'm making is if information was given ahead of time, things would have happened a lot faster. This was, again, just presented, hey, pass this, because we don't have to do something that we think, may be beneficial. We had union people here. The council president had friends that are in the unions that came and said they didn't know what was going on. They'd heard about this, they didn't know. Again, could have been avoided, could have passed a lot quicker had we just done this the right way. The result is we lost about $200,000 in potential savings. And even though the broker makes a lot more money, the council did at that point negotiate with the broker to take a reduction in commission, given how everything transpired. And that broker agreed, so I do want to thank the council colleagues for making sure that happened. When people come to the town, when people live in town, and people come to these council meetings, there's usually a common theme. They're coming to complain about streets, code enforcement, safety. There's a couple of basics that keep coming up. And I want to just highlight something that I've been trying to say for a while, and I think it's being, realized as we're going through this, and I know it's becoming more and more prevalent, but a lot of this stops when it gets to the court. These are Facebook posts that were posted this week. Garbage, cleanliness, cars parked, didn't get ticketed, did get ticketed, the streets aren't clean because the cars are there. Just raise your hand if you've had these issues. Is this something that people have been through? Streets aren't clean. This has come up many times. I haven't seen a street sweeper, my garbage is out there. These issues are still happening today. And the question is why? Why is this stuff happening if you're supposed to be paying 14% tax increase? Why are these the issues we're dealing with? Why is it the rats? Why is it the cleanliness? Why is it the cars are parked and not getting ticketed or they're not getting moved? The answer is going to come down to, and it's not a popular opinion, all this stuff comes to the court. When people get issued tickets, and we issue dozens and dozens of tickets, and we'll look at the numbers, code enforcement is almost blowing through their budget in terms of the spend and the salary and the overtime that they have. Look at how many tickets were issued in each category. I just want to show you the highlighted column. We used to have 2 judges. We used to have 2 judges here that would handle all the volume we had. The mayor got rid of the chief judge, and then we had 1 judge. Since then, if you look at the percentages, and they're all outlined here, these are facts. I'm not commenting on the narrative, these are just facts. The numbers here have been verified with the county, verified with Trenton. Before you see all the percentages of the backlog that we've had. So if you look at DWIs, when we had 2 judges versus where we are now, 171% as of June. I believe these numbers are worse in July. I'm waiting for confirmation. Traffic tickets. These have gotten a little bit better the last couple months, but if you look, in February it was almost 2,000 and then dropped to 600 the month after. How does that happen? A bunch of things get dismissed. 0, no income. Now, the court is not a revenue generator for the town. The court is not supposed to function as a moneymaker for the township. But inevitably, when people are getting tickets, 25, 50, for whatever the dollars are, hundreds of dollars, that money comes into the town. More importantly, with parking, parking is the one area where we've seen a decrease. But to me, and one of the hardest things to face on this every time we talk about it, is the police department and the code enforcement, the last two columns. What these items are, just to give you an example, things like domestic violence, real crime that's happening here. And our backlog is over 100%. It's almost 120%. What this means is there are people that are suffering in Hillside, that are making calls to the police department, that are getting tickets, that are getting fines, that all the right stuff is happening. When you get to the court, it's stalled. It's all sitting here. I'm just going to put this image because someone mentioned this to me, because I happened to speak to someone who was dealing with this. When you need a restraining order for domestic violence, how much longer is it going to take you to get, because the backlog is double? It's a scary thing. It's a very scary thing. There are people that are suffering, and we can't continue like this. There's really no reason. All we have to do is appoint another judge. In fact, last year, the Finance Committee and the council had put a salary into the court so they could hire another judge and deal with this. But it was never done. The money went there, and it was never handled. Code enforcement, you see here, this is clear as day. All those issues that people are posting about on Facebook, you're at 364% backlog as of June. How can you expect the streets to be clean and people to care about the properties when nothing happens if they don't listen? They'll do whatever they want. People are going to throw garbage on the streets, and slowly but surely, people realize there's no consequence to any of these things. It doesn't happen. It shouldn't happen here in Hillside. We have enough police people. We've seen it. Code enforcement's working hard. It's all getting bottlenecked here. It's a big problem. Okay. With all that being said, so we're not getting revenue from the court. We're not getting revenue. Right? We've lost on some of those things. The tax increase over the last 3 years that the mayor's presented is equaling to almost 22% increase over 3 years. That's 22% over 3 years. You have 2023 is 2%, 2024 last year was 6.25, and 2025 is almost 14%. Total of 22% increase. I will tell you, people's salaries are not going up this high. People's stable Social Security is not going up 22%. People cannot afford to pay this. There are going to be senior citizens that are on steady income that will not be able to pay for this. It's the reality. It's a very sad reality, and some of this could have been avoided. Where are the millions of dollars in the reverse tax appeal? Where is all the money that we were told was available? When you look at a business, the same way you look at any business, there's two ways that a business can survive. You cut expenses or you increase revenue. That's it. There's not a lot out there aside from that. If you're not increasing the money coming in and you're just spending and spending and spending, that outcome will fall on the taxpayer. It's not rocket science. It's any business works this way. When we look at some of these, there was an email given out of properties, right? So when I first got here, we asked, hey, how many properties does the township own? Why don't we get rid of some? Let's sell it. Let's foreclosures, right? So we were told there were 4, whatever. This was given in an email, the fixed asset report, which lists almost 15 different parcels of vacant land that we're sitting on. This we're sitting on. Now, some you can see the land and the improvement, the block and lot, it's all there. And I've Googled some of these addresses just so you know. Now, some of it is complicated. These are little strips in between two houses, and for some reason, the township owns it. I don't know why we don't just sell it to 50-50 to each of those people, or 100% to one or the other, or let the two of them buy it and get off the tax and get off our. We don't want to be real estate owners. But if you're looking here, it's more than 15 parcels of vacant land. That's some way or another we could have made money on. We could have sold. We could have auctioned it. Something. This is a big project that again has to be handled, has to be done, so that next year we're not facing the same thing. Again, this is not my slide. This is given, this is in the township. You can open this. Let's talk about economic development for a minute, because that was one of the big line items that had a big increase. Economic development, as you can see, economic development in this township and any township is a key role. What we want to have happen is that the economic development department is in touch with the business community in town, is in touch with the residents, and figures out what do we need in town? What do we want to see? Do we want more fine dining? Do we want more restaurants? What development can go here? Is there vacant lands or are there rundown buildings that we need to improve on? All these things reside in the Economic Development Department. Now, as you'll see here, 2024, the salary was $80,000. 2025, the salary increased 62%. Not a lot in terms of a number of 50,000, but you know, I don't get a 50,000% raise. That sounds like a big number. 62% increase went from 2024 to 2025. Okay, let's assume that it happened, and here we are. What did we get for it? What do we get from the Economic Development Department? If you look at this email sent last year, June 11th of 2024, there was a list of things that the Economic Development Department does, and this was sent by Councilman Rios to the rest of the council. And it was an update on all the things that the Economic Development Department does. Prepare a 5-year plan on behalf of the township, which is required for UEZ funds. Facilitate the allocation of additional UEZ dollars. Redevelopment of 1222 North Broad Street. Work with the architect. Develop a abandoned rescue site on Leslie Street. Meet with business owners to discuss partnership. Continue to explore feasibility of parking meters. Develop a business registration ordinance. The question that I've been asking, and I'm asking again today, is, so what was done with all this? What do we have? Now, we know we've been pushed and pushed and pushed to hire an economic development firm for $125,000 from the state is giving us the money to do this. And they're going to go around and do everything I just mentioned. They had a huge proposal, very nice. Okay, they were selected just a few weeks ago. So then what is the Economic Development Department doing? We're paying $50,000 more, and we just outsourced it somewhere else. Again, there may be stuff that I don't know. I will say that. I hope that that person or that department can come and present to the council because we've asked for it, and we're looking to see how that works. The point is, you don't have to be a business person or anything special to realize that if you're getting a 14% tax increase, why is that money still there? Why didn't we save on the $50,000 at least? Send it back. Why did the mayor say, you know what, I can't pay that $50,000 more, I'm not getting anything for it. Let's save that money, we'll save the taxpayers a little bit. Now I know that, we'll talk about that in a second, what that means in terms of a dollar amount. But look at this is from the economic development person who sent out this email. He's going to be doing business registration, vacant lot abandoned property ordinance, which will compel and stimulate development for any underdeveloped lots, resolution to allow for the reverse tax appeal, again, going back a year. So all this was supposed to be resolved quickly, smoothly. Again, none of it was done. The development of 1222 North Broad Street, again, haven't heard anything. Doesn't mean that nothing's happening. We just haven't heard anything of it. It looks like a vacant rundown building on North Broad Street. We don't know. There's been no presentation for that. And the last thing, which again is a little concerning, working with the architect to propose the development for recently surveyed ambulance squad on Leslie Street. This was mentioned in the mayor's State of the Township address, looking to build a revamped ambulance model building that's going to have a couple of different functions. It's all nice and good, but we're just spending money. We just keep spending money. So now we're going to look to do another project where, what are we getting for it? What's the revenue going to generate for that so that we don't have to pay for that in bonds and in loans and grants and everything else? Okay, the budget last year was introduced May 8th of 2024. That was a 6% budget increase. So last year in May, that budget came out. In 2025, we were required on February 28th, correct me if I'm wrong, February 28th, required to introduce the budget. In March, we asked, multiple meetings. In April, we asked. In May, we asked, where's the budget? Where's the budget? Where's the budget? To the point that we stopped paying bills because there was no other leverage to get the budget. We knew time was going too far. So on June 25th of 2025, the mayor presents a 14% increase. July 8th, the council rejects it and says, we're not even going to listen to this until this gets redone. July 23rd, we had to accept it because the DCA said, if you know what you're getting fined, you have to now take this and do what you can with it. That was July 23rd. The reason I bring this up is the late introduction of this budget makes it harder and harder to manipulate anything because we're already 9 months into the year. We're already 9 months in. So that money's already been spent. They're allowed to spend that money until something changes. What would have happened if we got the budget in March? What plan is there to rebuild the surplus? These are things we have to be doing. The surplus is down to basically not the lowest it's ever been, but pretty low. And what we have to do is make sure that that surplus, the surplus that we have, part of the spending and part of the I would say the science of coming up with a budget is making sure that we over budget a little bit. We make sure that we have some money in case of emergencies, in case we need something for the, let's just call it the sinkhole issue that happens that the state's not going to pay for, right? If there's an emergency, we want to make sure we have money to pay for it. I don't have the number for you what would have happened if we got this in March, but if you get this 3 months into the year, you now have the rest of the time to figure out, okay, how can we cut the budget? Where can we make fixes? When you're 9 months in, there's very little you can do with this, and I could show you the numbers about what this will actually mean for us. Okay, the last part of this, and I'm finishing up in just a moment. The mayor had posted on Facebook just a couple of days ago when the library pictures came out with very few current council people present. There was a picture of the library and the shovel, and they're going to start, building the new library. Groundbreaking. The mayor posted, when someone asked, is this going to increase our taxes? The mayor responded, projects that are supported by grant funding and bonding have very little impact on our township expenses. I'll say that again. Projects that are supported by grant funding and bonding have very little impact on our township expenses. Now, we're $45 million in debt right now. So we're paying interest on this. Now, it's spread out, and Glenn has shown us how that happens. But that's a big number. This is not a response I would want to see. Bonding has very little impact on township expenses. In the grand scheme of things, it's smaller, but you're still paying for it. It says business-minded people understand this. If you don't want tax increases, tell the council that is their responsibility. This, to me, is what really bugged me. How do you tell your residents that you're proposing a 14% tax increase and it's the council's fault? Go back to the first slide. Who runs the township? Who does the day-to-day? Who cleans up the streets? Who's responsible for all this? That's where your cost is. The council doesn't cost the township money. To say that it's our responsibility to waive this increase is a little bit disingenuous to me. What does the future look like? Leaving all the blame and everything aside, let's be practical. How are we going to get out of this, and what is the plan for the future? And what we haven't talked about, but has come up in some of our meetings, is there's a town-wide reassessment coming in 2027. Just say this one more time. There's a town-wide, statewide, state-required reassessment coming to Hillside. What that means is the same way the tax assessor can go to people's individual properties that we try to avoid, the state's coming in and saying, we have to do this. I believe it's every 30 years or so, you have to do this. So this is coming. We know we are going to have to pass this next year in 2026, and it's going to start to be implemented in 2027, if not sooner. What that means to me and to you and to all the residents that are paying taxes here is, we know that we're going to have to, let me say it like this. Some people are going to pay more, some people are going to pay less, some people are really not going to budget too much. I don't know if it's going to be me or not. I don't know if it's going to be you or not. But if we can fix our budget by 2027 or get close to it, whatever that burden is that people are going to have to pay, it's not going to be added to the budget cost. What that means is we have to prepare for this. This is 2 years from now, barely, a year and a half, let's call it. How are we preparing for that assessment? There are people here that have properties that they bought 30 years ago, and they're going to get crushed because when the reassessment comes in, they bought a home that was worth $100,000, now it's worth $400,000, and our average is $122,000 that we use as the assessment. That number could double for some. It may not budge for others. But if we have to prepare for everybody, we can't just take care of the people we don't know, right? I'm not a tax assessor, I couldn't tell you. We have to prepare for this number coming. There are going to be people, I'm just telling this to you now because I want it on the record in 2 years, that are going to say, but I'm getting hit with this and my taxes are going up. It's not possible. We know this is coming. We need to plan ahead of time. Do we revitalize our EMT structure? Now, from every council person I've talked to, and I know this has been the sentiment over the years, police and fire are very sacred to Hillside, and they should be. They're the first responders we have. Many times, or very often, it is the firefighters that are responding to EMT calls because they're certified. And the mayor mentioned it in one of our meetings that we're one of the only towns that has that. I'm not sure, when I look at the numbers, that there may be a different way to do this. And again, this is something that has to be fleshed out a little bit more, but maybe we need to hire EMTs instead of firefighters and EMTs. Now, the firefighters do the dual function. But if you had EMTs that just responded in their in their vehicles instead of a fire truck. Just imagine someone feels faint and a fire truck is pulling up to their house. What does that do to the fire truck? The gasoline, the cost, the overtime everyone's running around. If you had a small ambulance that could just run around and get there, it'd be faster. It could be sometimes more efficient. This is something we need to think about. We need to think about the things that maybe we haven't been doing as efficiently that need to be changed. Labor retirement contracts have to be negotiated. This stuff comes up, like we said, at least once every 4 years. We need someone who can come to these unions and say, you've been taking advantage of Hillside, your retirees in Hillside, when they retire from these jobs, are getting extreme benefits for life. We have to change that because we can't afford to keep paying 14% every year. Your money is going to paying us. We need to fix this. Now there are contracts and there are labor negotiations that have to happen, but it's doable and we need to start somewhere. You're not going to change everything overnight, but these are the things that should have been started last year, the year before, over the last however many years. Are we in a position to attract businesses and revenue to town? Is this town one where people want to come here and do business? Do we make it easier for them? There's a couple businesses here that are trying to open, have opened. People are in discussions about it. Do we want businesses to come here to help offset some of these costs and really be a benefit to what we're about? Now, there's this big project opening up on Liberty Avenue. That will change some of the way the businesses operate. Maybe we'll get some different businesses in there. That's a good thing. The economic development person is supposed to be on top of this. It's supposed to be helping us to say, hey, here's some things that could help Hillside, and you don't have this now. We have a couple fast food places. Maybe you should get a fine dining place on Liberty Avenue. I'm just throwing the idea out there. That's what you need to do. We need to think, are we attractive to businesses? Or are we taxing them the minute we can? Now, again, just want to make sure that this is something we keep in mind. There are times that you need both. Okay, I'll say the last thing, which we've touched on just a little bit. A lot of the issues that people have in town need to be brought up. They get brought up at council meetings and really need to go to the directors. They're meant to be at these meetings. The administration is meant to be interfacing with the residents. It's not that there should be no obstacle between anyone here and the DPW and the building department or anything else. The council has been prevented from having those discussions with the directors. So I'm just reappealing to you. This is something we want to think about as we go forward. Is this something we're comfortable with? Because this bottlenecks a lot of things. When people complain about streets and cleaning, they have to wait 2 weeks to come to a council meeting. They present it to us. We present it to Hope. Hope has to go back to the DPW. They get back to her. There's a whole chain that happens here that really should be cut out because it's not as efficient. It can be done very, very quickly. Okay, just in summary, as we look at this budget and we see what had happened here, we see where some of the costs are. This didn't happen overnight. You don't get the 14% or 20% over the last 3 years just because. We knew some of these people are going to get hired. We knew the fire department, we knew the police department's doubling. With every police fire, any employee that gets hired, there's a lot of factors that go into that. They get health benefits, they get pensions. How are we planning for that? You can't just wake up and just suddenly and say, okay, here's a 14% tax increase because we thought 6% was high last year. This doesn't happen overnight. Unfortunately for us, and this is where we're going to have to end some of this because there's still a couple of discussions to have, this comes from getting the budget as late as it is. So I can run the numbers, I can do it live if we want to, but in talking to the auditor who's here tonight, and he can verify the things I'm saying to you, we would have to cut millions of dollars in order to save this tax increase from what it is. It's not, I'm just telling you, it's not realistic. It's not realistic for a couple of reasons. I'll tell you why, and then we'll have to. So one of the reasons is there are some things that are unknown. We don't know what the winter's going to look like. We don't know what some of the factors are that we haven't planned out for. So there is a little cushion in the budget. If we cut everything down to zero from where we are today, if we cut it all down and we said, you know what, the budget's the budget, we're stopping at $1 right here, the most we would save, and we could look at this, is about $240,000. $240,000 because you're in September. You got 3 months left. You could save $230. That's not even 1% of your budget. If you doubled it, let's just say we said, you know what, we're going to have to lay people off, and we don't want to do that. We'll bump it up to $500,000. That saves dollars on our taxes. Unfortunately, saves dollars on our taxes. So what am I afraid of as a finance chair? I'm going to make a recommendation. Hey, I'm going to send the budget back. I'm going to cut $2 million out. Okay, I'll send it back to the administration. Hey, we're cutting $2 million. Figure it out. I don't want to be bothered. We can't pay this much taxes. What's going to happen? What would happen? I can't dictate where that cut is going to come from. Now, we know we've had some issues that were a little bit easy to deal with that became complicated with the leaf pickup and everything. I mean, you watch. I got $2 million. Good luck getting your leaves picked up. And not because it's wrong, but any excuse that's going to be, this is an election year. We got to be careful about that. I'm not up for election. I don't stand to gain by this. What I'm telling you is it's extremely dangerous in this case to try to cut more and more and more when we're down to our last few months, and there's very little you can do with it, you can do about this. I'll leave it here, and I'm glad that John Swisher's here, the auditor. He spent hours and hours with me on different Zoom calls to kind of go over this. Unfortunately, again, we are in a very difficult situation. And by the DCA that sent the letter, we have to pass something by the 26th. By the 26th, the state is going to come and say, we are either going to go with it, if you're changing it, we're going to go with it, or we're going to have to look into it. If not, we're going to keep the budget you have. And personally, I think this is a very dangerous thing to try to make some of these cuts now, given how late it is in the year. If this was presented back in March, no problem. We could talk about a layoff system that's going to make sense for us. We could talk about where we can make these cuts. Maybe we could bring in revenues on time. But when you're this late in the game, $240,000 was the most that we looked at if we cut it down to the bone. And Glenn will tell you, if we did that, the state's going to send it back and say, they're going to go to the CFO and say, is this functional? Can you function on this money? And most likely he's going to say no, because what if something happens we didn't predict? There's truth to that. This is just an unfortunate system where now after 3 years, we're 22% higher in taxes. Unfortunately, not a lot to show for it. And this is just a hard message to deliver. And what I don't want to do is let the mayor's comments on Facebook and say the council can control the increase, let that fester. Because it's not realistic. It's this late in the game. We asked for it in March. We asked for it in May. We asked for it in June. We asked for it way back when. So I'll take questions, or if the auditor wants to answer anything that I missed, I'll close it up now. But I thank you for listening, and try to, again, we have a little bit of time to work out some kinks that we have. We found there's some spots that maybe we under budgeted that have to be factored in. So that'll get worked through. There's going to be one more meeting at least with the with the CFO and with the auditor that we're going to, and the finance committee. As soon as we hash that out, we should be able to figure out what we can or can't do. But unfortunately, I'm going to be the messenger delivering the bad news that this is an unfortunate situation that we've all been put in. I mean, we all pay this tax. So thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Ferguson. Could you lower that screen, please?
While he's removing these items, we just again say thank you to Councilman Ferguson, the head of the Finance Committee, as well as everybody who served on that committee, Dr. Garrison, and also Councilman Joyner.
They went above and beyond to make this presentation today to help the citizens understand how the budget process works. And I'm extremely appreciative of him doing that, taking the time out to do that. And as he's gathering the stuff, I will say tonight we cannot adopt the budget tonight because there has to be some amendments made, informed by CFO Jones. He has amendments to be made as well. But we are going to open up the floor for public hearing, and then we will adjourn it, and we will continue the public hearing until our next meeting until we're able to adopt this budget. So as soon as Councilman Ferguson gets settled in, I'm going to open up the floor for a public hearing about the budget.
Council President, I have a question.
Councilwoman Hyatt.
Councilman Feuerstein did mention that he would take questions regarding his presentation. At what point is that going to happen?
Public hearing. In a second. All right, thank you again, Councilman First. At this time, I'd like to open the floor, make a motion, open the floor for public hearing in reference to the budget, please. Budget public hearing.
I move that we open the floor for the public hearing for the 2025 budget introduction or adoption.
Councilman VP Mills, accepted. All in favor? Aye. At this time, it's open. The podium is open to the public. Please state your name and your address about the budget. Any questions about the budget for Councilman Feinstein in reference to what he presented, or any other questions you might have? The floor is now open. I ask the council members to hear the public, and I will allow the council members to speak after the public speaks.
Hello, my name is Janice Caldwell, 140 Baltimore Avenue. I came late, but my question was, in 2 years, what is going to happen to us in 2 years?
I believe you're referring to the state assessment that's coming up.
Yeah,
So in 2 years, the state is telling us that after every 30 years, you have to have a new assessment of all the properties. So what happens is people that bought their homes 30 years ago and have never been assessed, potentially there's an increase that can happen. The tax assessor goes out, looks at all the homes and says, these homes are paying too little, these homes are paying too much. The same thing that happens with a business. But we have to plan for this. We have to make sure that if we can have as low a tax increase as possible in 2 years from now, it'll be less of a burden on the homeowner, because the homeowner is going to get impacted, not everybody. However, the assessments come out, but we have to plan that some people are going to get hit pretty hard, because it's been 30 years. It's been a long time.
oh, the last assessment we had was in 96 or 97? It was around that time,
I don't
because I got hit with that assessment. But my question to you guys knew that this was going to go and this was going to take place, okay? You knew about this assessment, and you guys should have been planning. You should have been planning when it came down to the library. You should have been planning when we got this $45 million debt that we in, the bonds. You should have been planning with this 14 point whatever % increase that she want to make. You should have been planning when it came down to the pool, that you knew that this assessment was going to take place. So now you're coming to us, telling us like this is our property. What do we hire you guys for? To look into the future, how Hillside is going to be run. So it would be wrong for the Hillside citizens to bring a class action suit against you guys for not doing your job well. It would be wrong for us to try to get together and say that we don't want you guys in that seat the way you have handled business here in this town for us. And now you want to break ground on a library? I went over to that spray park today, and it's really, people are laughing. That pool was donated by a woman. Her name is taken off that pool now. Okay, there's no pool. Okay, we got a spray park there with no bathrooms. Okay? You decide that you're going to create another pool. You allow her to make a decision to close up that pool, to put dirt in it and to fill that hole. And now you're going to come back and say this is a three-step project. It's the spray park that took up all of that room. Nothing there. Only 66 kids can play in that spray park at a time and get in that pool. How many kids is in Hillside? I mean, all these brains that we have up here, you guys couldn't put your brains together and say, you know what? This is not good. This spray park should bring money in to this town to help offset these taxes. You guys didn't do that for us. You did nothing, but you got a paycheck from us. And now you want to throw this back on us and say, oh, the state. You had a job, you had an obligation to the people, and you want to run for office. People want to stand here and run for office. You are out of line. You are out of line what you did to the Hillside taxpayers. You was not honest. There was no transparency. You abused your power. You misused our money. You misused us. That's what you did. And I'm angry that you can vote on us and say, look forward to this for 2 years. I know what can happen at that assessment. My taxes went from $4,955 to $10,000. I don't take this lightly. I don't think you guys deserving of your seats. I think you need to go. You need to leave freely and let us get some qualified people who know how to handle business, who's going to be loyal to the taxpayers, and not people getting their personal gain and giving people hookups. Because that's what y'all been doing, hooking each other up with our money. And when you think about it, I got the figures. It's over 6,555 homes in Hillside. You said the last year budget was $51 million that it took to run this town. I did an estimate, $10,000 for each home, and that's not counting the businesses in this town, brought $76 million into this town. If it takes $51 million to run this town, where's the difference? Where's that money going? Is there anything else going on in Hillside that we don't know about that we're paying for? Because Hillside property taxpayers, they are paying through their teeth for property tax, and we're not getting anything in return. Not a service here, not a service out there. And then another thing,
Ms. Caldwell.
wait, I got one more thing to say. One more thing.
Ms. Caldwell, I got you. I move that we give her an additional 3 minutes. Can I get a second?
You know, you make me lose my train of
Lisa
thought.
seconded the motion. She seconded the motion. Do we
Thank
need to
you.
take a vote, Madam Clerk? Oh, okay. Do we need to take a vote, Council President?
Ms. Caldwell can come back and speak. I want to give the residents other chance to speak as well. She can come back and speak. I've always been open to that.
You do have a motion and a second, though.
Yeah, I didn't entertain it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and he's not entertaining it. Please note that to the record.
Yeah, note that to the record.
That's not parliamentary procedure. You have a motion on the floor, a vote needs to be taken. Before you file the rules, that's what you all go by, right?
Facts.
Good evening, everyone. Aldina Mitchell, 1431 Maple Avenue, Hillside. And like I say, I don't like the fact that we're going to increase, should I say the mayor is going to increase our taxes. Because I know for a fact that the council is limited as to what they can do. The council does not sign anybody's check. They have no money that they work with. So therefore, you have to go back to the administration where the issue is. Because they're the ones that have spent money all year long. They spend money that the council doesn't even know they spent. All right? So you need to put blame where it's supposed to go. Because we waste a lot of money in this town on a yearly basis, and to have a budget this late in the year, it's like, hey, it's too late. You already spent your money. So it's like trying to make a budget now. It's like you're going to have to get an increase in order to pay for all that money that you wasted all year long. And, and I wish, that people would realize that, because the council does not have as much power as you think they have. I mean, they could go over the budget and try to nitpick here and there, but I mean, it's too late. I mean, they should have been making a budget for next year already. And that's the administration's fault. Thank you.
Good evening. Damien Boucher, 32 Fairbanks Street. Why is the budget habitually late every year? As I said, what can you do about it now? We've got 3 months left of the year. Every year it's late. And then I've been here over 37 years. And there's always a rise up in the taxes in the last quarter. Why? Somebody answer this. Oh, you got an answer? No, maybe get back to me on that. And libraries are obsolete. Everybody's got internet in their house. Most people, if you can afford to live in this town, you've got internet. You know, we have plenty of buildings to hold activities. Fix up what we have. We can't be raising taxes anymore. We have to start cutting. And as it's already been said, renegotiate these really beautiful benefit packages that you have for life because you're a public servant. I don't get that. I have to pay for it, though. I have to pay for my own. Thank you. I'm going to yield to the floor.
Raven Watson, 830 Jerome Avenue. I have a couple of questions. My first question is, when was the last time the budget was introduced on time? I didn't think so. I'm just curious. And then my other question, I heard you say in your presentation that the employees benefit because they're broker went up. Their contracts are from January 1 to December 31. Like, what is the length of the contract? And when did you all know that their benefits were increased? That's my second question. And my third question, I'm just going to say, you gaslighted us and said, oh, get scared, get ready, because in 2027, you're going to have a tax assessment. Which, okay, that's probably true. But to make people paranoid and scared, like, oh, my taxes are going to go up astronomically. You don't even know what foundation they're going to use to say, okay, this is how we're going to rate, this is how we're going to assess. But what you did was you created fear and make people say, oh, you got a tax increase, and they're going to do the assessment. The assessment part probably is true, but if you don't have no facts behind it to say, all right, the assessment is going to be X, Y, and Z, I don't think it's fair that you did that to us, the residents here, to say that. Because that's just candy. That just caused hysteria. That's all that did. And then, lastly, again, it's the blaming, back and forth, the blaming. That's why I asked the first question. When was the last time the budget was introduced? Because I've been here for 23 years, and I don't recall it ever being, in that time, being introduced on time. Not giving anyone a pass because it shouldn't be late. But let's get off of that. It was introduced late. We got that. We understood it. And I said this to y'all 3 months ago. We're going to be paying that 13 or 14% because the emergency budgets keep getting passed or whatever. But I said it 3 months ago. We're going to be on the hook for it. So my question again is, like, let's stop with the blame game. Let's stop with the back and forth. And I hate to say it, everybody except for y'all wasn't on the council. But I know for the last 8 years, y'all were. So we knew we could not keep going 0, 0, 0 because we're going to be in this situation. But again, I really want the answer, when was it introduced on time? When was the last time it was introduced on time? And I would appreciate if you don't gaslight us and do stuff like that, because that puts people in a fear.
Can I answer that question? Council President, you want me to wait?
You can wait. Any other comments from the public in reference to the budget?
Good evening, Marjorie Hargrave, 31 Bailey Avenue. I took a glance at the budget, and immediately when I looked at it, I noticed that there were police officers that are on that budget that are retired and have been retired for more than a year. I also noticed that Hope's position at the builder department is still on the budget. She hasn't been there 8 years. There are several ways that you can decrease this budget if you go through it. I don't know, I didn't go through the firefighters, I don't know all of the police officers, but I did know 2 of them that are on there that are no longer working in Hillside. So why are their salaries still in the budget? I don't know how careful of a job you're doing with the budget, but I know that there are things that can be done. And I hope that you all will allow those who have the expertise, your colleagues that have the expertise in that field, to weigh in. And I hope that you will take their recommendations seriously, because last year when you all increased this tax to 6% and you made light up to $17, well, it's $17 and $17. That $17 equals $120 per month for me. And that was at 6%. So we're talking about 2 times that. I'm an educator. I don't get those type of increases. And for those of us who live from paycheck to paycheck, you are pricing us out of our homes. You're going to keep the businesses, they're going to find somewhere else to go, and these homes are going to be, more homes are going to be vacant. So I know it's election season, and you all don't maybe not want to work or depend on each other for recommendations, but I know that in the past, Andrea Hyatt has been able to work that budget down to a affordable amount. And I would hope that you will allow her to weigh in on this budget, even though she's not on the finance committee, she has the expertise. And I hope that regardless of whether it's election year or not, that you will allow her to do it, because your salaries are being paid by us. And I don't think that it's fair for you all to have your own little grievances amongst each other that you can't work together for the benefit of the residents, because that's what we elected you to do.
Janice Caldwell, 140 Baltimore Avenue. And I'm just riding and piggybacking off of Marjorie. Absolutely. If you guys needed to give it to someone who's familiar with the budget and know how to do it, you need to give it to her and let her do it. Okay? That's it. It shouldn't be a second guess on this. Okay? And we know that there's an election year, and we know what time it is. And we know what's going on. We know more than you guys think we know about how you guys have handled our business here in Hillside. And it's not good. It's not good. Okay? And I think, like I said, give the budget to her. Let her take a look at the budget. We know this is an election year. We have people that's running for mayor. Mr. Epps, he's running. Ms. Hyatt is running. And we know people want to hold their seats. But we also know what happened with the 6.2. We know about people who's working here that has been hired that should not be even close to our money and touching our money. And still, we want the actual numbers to what the businesses bring into Hillside, how much money. Because see, mathematics don't lie. It tells you the truth. We want to know how many businesses are here in Hillside, what do they pay in property taxes, and we want to know the actual cost of what homeowners are paying in property taxes and what is going out. We need those numbers, or we need someone to come in and take a look at our books, because a lot of our money is being spent and nothing is being shown for it. Nothing at all. Every time we come to this meeting, it's about money, money. You guys want this, you want that, and now you're getting ready to break ground on a library. Why would you do that? Why is this happening? And how much is the library going to cost? And who's supposed to pay for it? Especially if the future said that we're going to get an assessment from the state and everybody's going to get hit. You should want to freeze any project that's concerned money when it comes down to Hillside right now, until after the election, until everything is over with. Then you can start fresh again and new. And I hope you consider that. Because if you want to be mayor, we want someone with some leadership skills. We want someone who knows how to run business, okay, and not think about their own personal needs. That's what we want. Thank you.
sorry I was late today. Sheila Hargrove Hendricks, 132 Bailey Avenue, Hillside. I have a question. I missed the entire presentation. I didn't really miss it, David. I was on the virtual, but I did miss, and I could not ask any questions. I do have a question for the president, council president. What is your take on the budget? Did you go over it personally? Did you go through the budget? I know you're not a part of the finance committee, but do you have any take on this budget, or where we can have any decreases? I want to ask you personally.
Yeah, I made my suggestions to the finance chief.
And did they take your suggestions?
They listened
And
to
I
me.
wanted to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, they listened to my suggestions.
I wanted to talk about what Marjorie just mentioned about Marjorie Hargrove. She said there was 2 salaries on the budget and those people are no longer working for Hillside. So how does that work? Like, are these running salaries because they're open, or these people are no longer there and you just have the salary there, or the name is there? I want to be able to see it for myself. I'm an accountant, and I would love to like review your budget and help you guys if you want my help. I will definitely give it, but I want to go over it. I didn't have a chance to do it as of yet, but if you guys want my expertise, I would be happy to give it. The CFO, I have a question for him. Can I just talk to him, or I have to talk to you?
You can ask the question. I know he might not be equipped to answer it tonight, but you can ask the question. You put it in the record.
So I'm just talking about the books, the financial books. Like, is this something that you guys do in your finance department? Are you doing the financials? Are you doing all supporting documents? And who's looking at this stuff? Your auditors? Who's the outside auditors that you guys are using to make sure debits and credits are being done correctly?
Good afternoon. All municipalities in New Jersey have to follow local budget law. So that's kind of like our Bible, and we are audited every year independently. Our auditor is in the audience.
I'm sorry.
We're audited every year.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah. So our auditor is in the audience. So
This is your audit.
yes, this suspicious looking gentleman.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so I just wanted to know what the process was.
It's all
I'm
standard.
very,
Every
new to this. And I
every
wasn't-
town has to follow local budget. It's standard.
Okay, so that wasn't my question. I said, okay, your accountant, your auditor is reviewing the financials at the end of the fiscal year.
Annual.
Right, so it's an annual. Okay,
Ms.
so-
Hargrove, I'm sorry. They can't hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry, because I wasn't talking to.
I know, but the public can't hear what
I'm
you're
so
asking.
sorry. I wanted to know who's looking at the books. You're the CFO, correct?
Yes.
So who's tracking your checks and balances? That's what I want to know, other than these auditors.
Yeah, I'm responsible for the day-to-day.
That's what I want to know. Okay. That's what I needed. Thank you.
Raven Watson, 83009. So, has everyone looked at the budget and had the opportunity, oh, sorry, can y'all hear me now? So Mr. John Reese Garrison is here, but have everyone had the opportunity to look at the budget and provide suggestions? Everybody's suggestions have been considered on this council?
I'm going to let Councilman Ferguson speak on that, because I do know that he did send out email for the council members to send their recommendations for the budget.
So,
Councilman Ferguson, can you
Yes, sir.
speak on that?
Yeah, I'd worked hand in hand with a few of the council members that have asked for in-person meetings. We've met with people both in the departments as well as outside. We've used resources that the township has had. People like Mr. Caucus, who's had experience with DPW and looking at budgets before. We've had hours and hours of meetings with people like that. Not everyone has given their feedback. So questions were asked to the entire council. If you have any questions, if you have any comments on any department, please forward it to the finance department. I got it from a few council members. I still am waiting on a few others. So everyone had a chance to look at it. We've all had it for a few weeks. Not everyone has given their opinions on it.
Any other questions from the public or comments about the budget?
Janelle Davis, 1559 Leslie Street. My question is, given the substantial size of the budget, and it's an annual budget, do we also have a monthly budget so that the expenses are not so front-loaded and our hands are tied at this point in the year? That's my first question. Second question is about our auditor controls. I've seen the same recommendations in the audit reports year over year. So just wondering why those haven't been addressed. Can you guys hear me? That latter question was about the auditor recommendations not being addressed in consecutive reports. And lastly, just want to echo the checks and balances that are meant to be in government. So what checks do we have to check the mayor?
Any other comments, questions from the public? All right, seeing none, I get a motion to adjourn this budget public hearing. We will continue at our next meeting when we're ready to adopt the budget. I get a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Madam Clerk, roll call, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn the public hearing. Bonanno?
Yes.
Purstein?
Yes.
Garrison is excused. Hyatt?
Yes.
Joyner is excused. Vice President Rios?
Yes.
Council President Epps?
Yes,
Public hearing is adjourned to our next meeting.
thank you. At this time, I'll have council remarks in reference to the budget public hearing. Councilwoman Hyatt.
Thank you, Council President. So I have several questions regarding the presentation and/or possibly some clarifications. So I did reach out the other day, what was it, Friday, to ask, being that it was advertised that we were going to be adopting the budget tonight, I did request what it was we would be discussing here this evening so that we could look at it in advance. So that information was not provided. We received the document tonight, and some of the information I heard was not accurate information. So there were some questions and concerns I had about some of the presentation, but let me go back. It was my understanding that we were asked to provide our questions pertaining to the budget, and my position was I can provide questions to individuals who can then relay a question to someone else. But if you don't understand the contextual value of finances, when somebody gives you a response, it is not necessarily an answer. So as a council member in my seat, I have the right to talk to the individuals directly. That right has been removed by the mayor, and I am not in belief that it's in the best interest for me to relay a question through another council member that may or may not know if they're being given a response or an answer. I think we should equally have the right, and since the resolution was passed by this council saying that they were creating some level of an ability to pierce that veil, I was not given that opportunity, which would have expedited this process. Now, there have been several meetings that it was advertised that we were going to adopt, where council members pontificated about standing in disagreement with the taxpaying citizens. That time prolonged this process and allowed the administration to continue to spend at 14%, as opposed to shutting it down and providing a budget amendment, which is what the state law requires at this point, and in order to adopt something different than a 14% tax increase. To the point of Marjorie Hargrave, there are quite a few places in this budget where cuts can be made that are sizable. And it comes down to your understanding of budgeting and financing. And some of it is simple basic math. If we look at the calculations in the reserve column, and they're higher than the numbers that are in the paid or charged for last year, we do not need to charge the taxpayer again this year an amount that is higher than what is in the reserve. when we could simply reduce the budget by those hundreds of thousands of dollars in each of the lines that it pertains to, resulting in over $1 million in actual cuts that do not damage the taxpayer. But the reality is, to the point made by Rachel Watson, and also Marjorie Hargrave, and also Sheila Hargrove, we need to be working together in what is in the best interest of the taxpaying citizen, which we continue not to do. Now, as far as the reverse tax appeal, which was something that was brought up by both the mayor and in Councilman Feuerstein's presentation here tonight, both of them have said on multiple occasions something about businesses paying their fair share. Until and unless we start taking a comprehensive approach to looking at not only what we're charging the individual homeowners, but also the businesses, we're never going to get it right. Because currently, we're overcharging one of the businesses and charging them $2 million for sewage, when the whole bill from joint meeting is just over $2 million. And they're suing us. And I've asked about this with legal. And I've mentioned this at council meetings. But we're quick to make 5-second tidbit statements to your point, Rayba Watson, to invoke fear or to get an emotion out of the public. Another business is suing us behind the sinkhole and the lapse of time that it took for this township to take any action to repair it and the amount of loss of income that they incurred as a result of it. But we don't get to hear about those things, and as you see, the township attorney is not here tonight. There are several line items in this budget that the council never approved. There are several job titles in this budget that the council never approved. And there are things that the council could have done if the council had the intestinal fortitude to do our job. Not everything is the mayor's fault, and I'll be the first to tell you what is. But the fact of the matter is, when we elect people who know what their job is and how to do it, we could get stuff done more effectively. And the council has not been proactive in its approach to correct the problems that were within our power to correct, period. And that comes from people not knowing their job, not knowing their power, and not knowing how to use the power that they have so desperately sought. So I will provide a budget amendment. I will not be voting yes to adopt this budget tonight, although it only requires 4 votes. But I do need you all to stand up and speak up, because there are a lot of things in this budget that are simply not right. I don't understand, Mr. Jones, how it is that in a year, when the group health insurance increases by over $2 million, the contributory portion of the township employees is reduced. I don't understand if that is a mistake. I don't understand what causes that type of change in the budget. I don't understand why we have $500,000 of reserves in the group insurance plan for employees line, and we have an amount of $8.2 million that we're requesting from taxpayers in the current year without being told exactly what the cost of the group health life insurance is going to be this year. I do not understand why several members of this council chose to accept a budget last year that only included 10 months of the health insurance in the budget when there are always 12 months in a year. I do not understand why now we have 14 months of health insurance in the budget and we're all sitting here acting like we don't know that. I do not understand why we have one-off items in the budget with no explanation as to how we're going to increase that revenue come next year. I do not understand why there is a line item to pay economic development $50,000 more than it was last year, and yet we had a portion of money to put into reserves that we didn't use last year. So it seems to me we were paying a person out of 2 departments and possibly allocating a salary. But what I do know is we don't have more than 1 person in that department, and we don't have any real revenue percentage-wise that has increased our tax base to the point that it warrants us having a person in a position that the council never authorized. I do not understand while all of these line items under insurance show reserves in almost $500,000, and yet we're trying to tax the taxpayers this year for over $1 million again.
It's called corruption. That's what it's called.
And as far as some of the other questions that I had, I heard a statement about something pertaining to the firemen and the EMTs. And I wasn't sure about what specifically I heard, but we were not at liberty to ask our questions at the time that it took place. What I know is every single door that I go to of any resident that is 50 years or older, the first thing they say is if you touch the fire department, they are going to be very upset because the fire department are the EMTs. And instead of us paying the high prices that we were paying for other ambulatory care companies to come into Hillside, to pick up our seniors, to pick up whoever it is that is in need of some type of medical assistance in an emergency situation, the fact that we now own more than one ambulance has actually been an income source for us. And so if we're going to be due diligent in our analysis of the finances, we need to understand what our income generating sources are within this budget before we make an attempt or even make a statement to talk about cutting something. To the point that Marjorie Hargrave made about there being line items in the budget and dollar figures associated with them, those are line items we should be able to cut, period. Adding all those up, again I say, we get to more than $1 million. The budget increased by $4 million. $1 million over $4 million is 25%. 25% of 13 would reduce the budget at least by 4%. So absolutely not is the statement true that there is nothing that we can do to substantially change this budget. And if we look at the fact that you can prorate all of these salaries that are in this budget to September 30th, well, let's go a day beyond that because civil service would require us to give a 30-day notice if we do need to lay anybody off. You go a day beyond that, you prorate the salary, you see what the last 3 months are going to be, and you make a determination as to whether or not that's a savings we want to incur. You add them up and you see where you end up. That's how we cut the budget. I will provide a copy of my recommendations with the resolution and budget amendment for your review. Thank you, Council President. That concludes my remarks.
Councilman Thurston.
Thank you, Council President. Just wanted to address a couple of the questions from before. I'll just address quickly Reva Watson's. The comment on the assessment that's coming out is not a gaslight. It's not meant to scare anybody. It's a reality that we were made aware of this year. We don't ask for this every year. We don't go to the state and say, hey, you didn't assess us, can you come and assess us again? This came up this year. We've gone by for years without it. So this is coming in 2 years. The point being, we need to prepare for that. It's not a scare tactic. Let's prepare for it. We know it's coming. Let's figure out how we can get, like Councilman Hyatt said, the right people in place, make sure that this stuff is done properly so that in 2 years we don't have people paying the assessment and a heavier tax increase. That was the only reason for the comment. In terms of the other comments, I guess I'll look forward to Councilman Hyatt's remarks and be happy to work with her or anybody else who has suggestions. I want to thank the auditor who's here today, who's spent countless hours with me, as well as Artie Kovitz, who's done this quite a few times to make sure that we review this pretty thoroughly. So thank you.
Councilwoman Bonanno.
Thank you for coming out this evening. What I don't understand is why we have this incredible talent that we have not tapped into. We have residents that have identified themselves as accountants, as people who specialize in budgets, and why we don't have a committee set up of residents that can help add to our talent, to our finance budget review. I think, now I'm not foolish enough to think that it could help us perhaps come up with anything drastically this year, but moving forward for 2026, we need to have that established. We need to have a resident-based committee. Ooh, I'm so sorry. I'm Italian. I speak with my hands. Sorry about that. But I think we definitely need to establish that, like we have a recreation department. We can come up with a civilian-based residents that have backgrounds or have passions that want to help balance this budget, because I don't remember the last time we had budget introduced on time. And I've lived here since 1968. So I've been here a long time. So again, thank you for coming out this evening. Looking forward to seeing you again next meeting. And I'd love to talk to you after this meeting and get your names and start getting people who want to volunteer for this committee, because I really think we need this.
Councilor VP Rios.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to mention that this is a decision with the budget that none of us take lightly. We are also taxpaying citizens, and this does affect us as well. So nothing about this budget process is easy. Having gone through it the last 3 years, it's actually one of my most strenuous and stressful times because we know how much this impacts our community. With that being said, a part of how we work together, and a big part is communication. And I do agree when the residents mentioned it here today, communication needs to be better from all sides. Our side, council side together with the administration, and I've mentioned this numerous times, and something that we want to work towards doing is communicating better. Now, that communication on both the administration and council side, as it comes to last year's reverse tax appeal, for instance, yes, that was brought to us late, and decisions have to be made on the fly. Now, when doing that, we also know that by not making the decision, we're hurting, but also, to Councilman Feuerstein's point, we need to make sure that we're doing our due diligence as well. That's where that communication rub happens, so in that way, it does not get approved last year, which means that it does not come on this year's budget. So when we approved it this year, that means that this is going to now affect the money coming in for next year's budget. So again, one communication lapse means any savings that we could have incurred is now going to get pushed on. So as well, hearing some of this information for the first time tonight from the Finance Committee should also be getting this a little bit sooner, right? The council should not be the first time we're hearing this information from this budget presentation. With that being said, I'm looking forward to going through Councilman Feuerstein's presentation and then providing our feedback moving forward for this budget. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Let me say thank you for everybody for coming out. There's going to be another public comments after I speak about the budget, but thank you for your comments about the budget. Let me thank Councilman Feuerstein and his committee for his efforts tonight. It's not an easy time for this council nor the citizens. What I do understand is that this budget, every council member had access to this budget in June, as well as the citizens if you wish to have it, if you had it. So it's a little, in my opinion, disingenuous to run down a list of 25 things that you do not understand when you had this budget in June. And understanding the nature of what's going on now in this election season, we do every now and then want to, if you will, grandstand. But I do understand that every council member had this budget in June.
But
you have expertise.
You set the agenda.
But sorry,
Council President,
I'm talking,
set the agenda.
Councilwoman Hyde, I'm
and
talking.
You said on
that's very
three
disrespectful what you're doing right now.
we're going to adopt the budget.
Excuse me. Can I finish,
at
please?
a fundraiser.
I never interrupted you, Councilwoman Hyde. Could you please be professional? Please be professional. I'm talking. I'm talking. Please.
And I do not.
Anyway, in any event, as I was saying, everybody had opportunity to bring forth their recommendations to decrease this budget. Not just tonight. Everybody had an opportunity. That's what I have to say about the budget. Thank you. At this time, I'd like make a motion to open the floor for public comments.
I move.
Make it a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion at this time, the podium is open for public comments. You can talk about any issue that you would like to talk about. Could you say your name? I couldn't hear you in the mic.
Oh, Deneen Davis, 478 Conant Street. And I guess my comment is I'm just heartbroken. I thought the council was supposed to work together instead of go against each other. And it's heartbreaking because the residents are suffering. Councilwoman Bonanno, I liked your idea that residents can come and support a council member or support the council, because you can't do it by yourself. We are a community. I get so disappointed when I go to other townships, and I have more pride going to Union, South Orange, Summit, which is Union County, and then I come home, and I'm like, what do we have? It's not fair. We have to work together. You have to have an open mind. We got to do better. You know, cut the BS. Our children are at stake. Our elderly are at stake. Society as a whole, we got to do better. And I'm just brokenhearted. I am just so dumbfounded. I don't understand why is this the thing that the budget's supposed to be late? Working in corporate America, you have your benchmarks, your deadlines, and if you don't perform, you're out. Why is it so hard not to follow your benchmarks and your date? It's not rocket science. I have the background in accounting. We know it's quarter closing, monthly closing. It's not hard. Get out of self. Think about your people. Think about how you want to live. We have a great township. Don't let it go into the hole. Let's just do better.
Sheila Hargrove Hendricks, I just had a quick piggyback off of what she said. I would love to see you guys work together better, honestly, because we're like, it's over. If you drive around, you can see it. It doesn't look like it used to look 20 years ago. So I would love for you guys to not argue and really work together, because that's what we need. We're not sitting in that seat. We're dependent on you guys. We're dependent on you guys to make things happen for us. I don't care about who did what or whatever the mayor did. We already know that we have to make a really big change. Like, this is it. A lot of people want to move. I want to move. I can't even move. I can't move. You know why? Because every house in New Jersey costs $1 million. So I have to stay here. And I'm sure all these people behind me has to too, along with you guys. So why we can't work together and be nicer to each other? Now, I'm a pit bull, but I know when you have to work with somebody, you have to do that. So you guys shouldn't be arguing about who don't understand and what you shouldn't understand. I get it. I get it. How about we all talk about what she doesn't understand so she can put her expertise to the test? Let's do that. Let's just be better people. I don't like this. It's not who I am. I'm a pit bull. Don't get me wrong now. But when it comes to business, I like things to be done right. It's not about just taking pictures and smiling. I like results. I'm a results person. I don't like BS. So that's all I have to say. I do hope you guys can work together. Everyone, just if you're going to be on the seat, work together. Even if you don't like each other, how about that? Just work together. That's all I have to say.
Janice Caldwell, 140 Baltimore Avenue. And I know, like the woman said, she's heartbroken about what she sees. I'm not heartbroken, I'm pissed off, very angry, okay? Because trust is important. And a lot of people voted for you guys. That's the thing that gets me, okay? And basically, if you have someone here that's sitting here that can make changes for the people, don't even second guess yourself. Do what is best for the people. Put your pride on the side, okay, and do what is best for Hillside residents, okay? We trusted you guys. People don't come to this meeting because they say we should be trusting the people who's sitting right here to work for us because we voted them into office and gave them this position. And you can't put it all on the mayor because you guys gave her the power to do what she want to do. You voted yes to a lot of the stuff. And Mr. Epps, you was her ringleader in Rios. You supported her 100%. Rios, all those tax hikes, you said yes, the record shows. And I want Hillside residents to go to the clerk office and get copies of these meetings. Go back and take a look. Take a look at the votes that you guys made, and the numbers was not even on the paper. You said yes to give money, 3%, 2%, of what? You didn't even have the whole figures. The furniture, the heating system, where it's not working. We gave money for that. You know, you guys got to be responsible for your action. And I'm not feeling sorry for you. You had a job to do. You owe it to us to do your job well. We pay you to do your job. And if you want to cut the budget too, let's cut some salaries here. Because you didn't do your job, give us back the money that we give you. You give us back the money we gave you. You give back your money. You give back your money because the mayor gave y'all a raise. And I know how that budget worked because when Ms. Garrison was in office as mayor, she had on the budget that she was baiting the sewers, and that was over $100,000, and we had rats all around in Hillside. She said there was 90 police officers working for Hillside where there was only 40. I went and I did the research. What happened to that money? Where did that money go? Just like on this recent budget that she's talking about. I know what she's talking about. There's things that need to be answered and questions that need to be answered and then you say that the auditor, he only know what you guys give him, right? That's all he knows. And he's going to take what you give him and say, okay, this is true to fact. Come on, you guys. It's going to come out in the open. You got to stop doing favors for each other. You got to be here to do the favor for the Hillside residents and work for them. And stop giving people hookups and jobs with our money. You owe that to us. And yes, every time I stand here, I'm going to call you out because I know a lot of other things that's going on. What you done did, how you did it, and that stuff is going to come to light. It's going to come to light. And then you want to stand here and put on your nice suits and take pictures and say you're the ones that's going to lead Hillside out of this madness when you put us here. How can you do that? How can you do that? You're wrong. You're wrong. And it's boots on the ground, like I told everybody. It's time for a change. We need a clean team. We need a new set of people that's going to work for the township of Hillside. That's what we need, because you guys did it. You did a job on us. You did us dirty. That's what you did. And now you want to stand up and put on your suits and take pictures and say, oh, I'm the right person for the job. No, that's not the way it's going to work. You're not going to take a page out of Trump's book and think that you're going to get over on us. It's not going to happen. Not this election year. Not this election year. We promise that.
Can y'all tell us when the next meeting, because you said this is like part 1 and then there'll be a part 2. So when is the next meeting?
Our next scheduled council meeting is September 9th. That's our caucus meeting.
At 6?
At 6:30.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Good evening, Tony Thompson, Bellevue Terrace. I wasn't going to say anything, but I was actually at home watching, and I got so aggravated and frustrated by some of the things that were being discussed that I jumped in my car and came down. I've been in Hillside for over 50 years, probably about 52 years now, and I've seen a lot of things happen in this town. I've watched how it has deteriorated, and it's frustrating to me, and I don't usually come and speak. I usually don't say much, but I'm tired. And I'm speaking for myself, but I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. People are tired of the bull crap that goes on in these meetings. That's one of the reasons why I don't come. A young lady earlier said that she was heartbroken. That's exactly how I felt. And that's why I got my car, came down here. Because I'm so heartbroken to know that a town this daggone small has so many issues. It makes absolutely no sense. First of all, y'all can't get along with each other. That makes no sense. You sit here and you argue back and forth, but while y'all arguing back and forth, shit is falling apart in this town. Y'all need to get it together. And like somebody said, clean slate, I'll be the first one to make sure I go out and tell everybody to vote every single last one of y'all off of this board so we get some new, fresh blood in here and some people that's going to do right by this town and not think about themselves all the time. We had somebody years ago, because I was young and I remember, who thought about themselves. And then there was a lot of money and stuff missing. I thought they left years ago. I thought we were past all that. But here we are back again. Can't figure out where money is going. Money is being wasted. Money is being spent. And at the same time, this town looks like crap. I'm sick of it. I don't know what he said, but I'm sick of it. Okay? Get it together. Plain and simple. Get it together. We, the residents, are tired. Like I said, I'm speaking for myself, but I know that everybody feels the same way. Y'all need to get y'all shit together, because this is getting ridiculous. And I apologize for cursing. My mother was here, she slapped the hell out of me. But that's how angry I am. This makes absolutely no sense that grown adults can't get along. Come on, what the hell is that about? Y'all worse than the kids. Y'all might as well be sitting up at the high school. Get it together. That's it.
Any other comments from the public?
Joanne Horton Givens, 226 Wilder Street. Just about a year and a half ago, my son moved back to Hillside. I don't talk to him about anything that goes on in a township, but I was very disheartened when he came home to say, "Mommy, what's going on in our township?" Just by him riding through the streets, coming back home, where he grew up. He'll be 29 years old. He grew up here. I've been here 27 years. And it broke my heart. I don't know who it was that said this, but we're such a small township. And we talk about being family. And family have disagreements. We all have disagreements with our family members. But when it comes down to the better good, regardless of our personal opinion, and what we feel about each other, we still work together for the common goal. And if our common goal here in Hillside is to grow our township, improve upon the things that need to be improved upon, I think that we need to step back and reevaluate our why and why we are here and why we're here, what job we're here to do. It's so unfortunate. I come, I never say anything. And in my own right, I'm a leader at work. And I understand that I may not like everything that goes on. I may not like my neighbor, and not many people that I don't like, but I know how to be able to work with others regardless of my personal opinion. I ask you, I beg you, because we have our children that are looking at us. We're supposed to lead by example. You don't think that they see what's going on? My son, who hadn't been here, when he went to college, he didn't come back home until 2 years ago. And he had not been here. And we did not have to say a word. We didn't say anything to him. He saw it. It was exemplified as he rode through the streets. He can feel it in the atmosphere. If you don't feel it, I don't know what's wrong with you. I think that we have to do a better job. Because at the top, our presidency, we are local government. And this is what we're going through at local government. Some of the things that we're experiencing and we hear from our President of the United States, but our local government, we should be able to have more confidence
and what's going on here in Hillside. And we're a family. We say we're a family, but we fight, we backbite, we tear each other down, we don't work effectively together. I ask that we reconsider that, okay, for our future. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, motion to close public comments.
I move.
I get a second? All in favor? Get a motion to adjourn?
I move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody have a great evening.
Thank you all for coming out.